Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. Great article from Business Wire. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So this is a bit of an older article, but it ties into today's video. As the market is potentially on the verge of moving back towards convergence, right? If you guys remember, convergence was a big deal, right? It used to be called bundling, right? If you had TV, internet, and wireless, you are going to be a longer term customer. As the market continues to perhaps shift back towards that, and we can kind of see it in the behavior of the carriers as they start buying up all these fiber assets. And even T-Mobile, even though they're not going to own and operate 100%, they're still starting to buy into fiber assets at 50%, but that could grow in the future. Keep in mind, if there is a big race to convergence, T-Mobile will have to act. But it's still small for T-Mobile. It's still a relatively small scale. So they're going to have to support convergence with FWA until they can gain an even bigger scale on fiber. So that's why the 6 carrier aggregation record that you see here is so important. And moving forward to maybe 7 or 8 carrier aggregation. Because T-Mobile will have to continue to compete even if the market is moving towards convergence. They're going to have to continue to compete. They're going to have to figure it out. In other words, they're going to have to make a decision. Hey, today the market is already moving towards convergence. AT&T is still rumored to get Lumen. Verizon is going to close Frontier. We're going to have to make some changes, right? So T-Mobile is going to have to evaluate. They're going to have to see, okay, now that Frontier has closed and Verizon is pushing convergence, how is that affecting our business? They already know how AT&T is affecting the business because AT&T is already a scaled fiber player, right? Not saying that Verizon isn't, but Verizon is mainly only on the East Coast, right? Specifically like the New York region, and they're expanding in that area, but they don't have a fiber footprint, at least fiber to the prem in other parts of the country. So now with Frontier, that would change. So T-Mobile would have to look at that too. Now they would have to compete against 2 scaled converged players. That would have T-Mobile move differently, right? Because if the competition on the wireless side is really based off of promotions, right? That's what the market has shifted towards. You get $1,000 off, you're happy. And then you move carriers depending on who has the best deal. But that could change drastically. We could be moving towards where now in the future, convergence is the reason that consumers switch carriers. It's quite possible. Or it's the reason that churn gets even lower and it gets harder to move people, from get people into the switching pool that T-Mobile feeds off of. Right. So that's something that Verizon and AT&T could be looking at too. Said, hey, if we converge and we gain scale on these guys and we lower our churn, then we're giving less fuel to T-Mobile to grow, right? They could be looking at that too. But regardless, in order for T-Mobile to compete back in the short to midterm, because the Frontier deal is going to close either later this year or early next year. It's going to close, right? So, and then there's about a year or so of a period of integration, right? You integrate brand and everything else. T-Mobile doesn't have a lot of time to really make a big chess move in that short of period, right? They have 2 deals that they're going to close, right? They just closed Lumos. Next is Metronet. They're going to be busy with that, right? For in terms of fiber, they're going to be busy integrating the the brand and everything else. And then on the wireless side, they're going to close US Cellular. So they're going to be busy with that, right? So they have to move to this type of urgency to get the 6 carrier aggregation, to get backhaul provisioned higher. They're going to have a capacitive network unlike ever seen before in order to compete back in convergence, right? They're going to have to get FWA to more homes passed. They're guiding 12 million by 2028, which is a massive amount of additional customers versus what they have today. But the only way they can get there and keep churn low on that product, they have to advance technology. They have to get the tower sites with as much possible capacity as they can. They can't sit still. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I just wanted to share that as the market perhaps is moving towards convergence. Where does T-Mobile fit in? Right, 50% ownership in both companies that they're getting could be 100% at some point. They're going to have to definitely invest more. If the AT&T and Lumen acquisition closes, T-Mobile's going to have to invest more into MetroNet and Lumos to have them scale their network, their respective networks and homes passed, so they can compete back. So we'll continue to monitor. We have earnings coming up this month, so we continue to monitor and see where the shift is. But for now, it sounds like the market is going back to convergence. So let me know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe. See y'all in the next one. Peace.